Nora Wendel, really great conversation. She helps women specifically suffer through self-doubt, lack of confidence, become magnetic and unstoppable, self-worth. She also does couples counseling, but we have a great conversation on some of the tools that she uses, specifically around women to get rid of self doubt and to. Um, she makes a really good point about the inner child is throwing a tantrum in your adult life and how to address that. She has these exercises that a lot of women should go through. We also talk about men and how they should be better, you know, in the relationship with women and how they should listen, some exercises there. She also, at one point, by the way, men, gives the two worst words you can say to a woman. The two absolute worst words you can say to a woman. But it's a really great conversation. Nora Wendel is she's in Bora, Indonesia now. One parent's from Nepal. And, she was in India. She was in South Africa. She was in London. She's just a world traveler. And what she does now, she wrote a book, an excellent book on Amazon bestseller about relationships and really, really fascinating woman, Nora Wendel. I think you're going to enjoy it. Thanks so much for listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz. People ask me, how did I lose 130 pounds? The quick answer is always discipline. I started my business, wasn't paying attention to my health, was eating too much, drinking too much sweets. My daughter was born. Next thing I know, I'm pre-diabetic, I have hypertension. I knew something had to change. Discipline. I, like many of you, have faced many challenges in your career, in your family, in your life, in your faith. How did you attack them? How did you approach them? How did you solve them, hopefully? It all had to have some degree of discipline. I'm also asked, how did you found and start a tech business? And it lasted over 25 years. Discipline. I was committed to it, enjoyed technology, didn't enjoy some aspects of it, but knew it was necessary. Discipline. Our podcast mission: how do we use discipline to better ourselves and society? Join me, please, as I talk to interesting people and discuss how they use discipline in their family, in their passion, in their careers, and how it helped them. Our podcast vision: growth through learning from others. Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. It'll be light and serious. Join us, please. Thank you for consideration.
Checking in on me, saying, "Do you want to be on the podcast?"
I really appreciate you doing this. I am fascinated with your content. I have so many questions.
Great, here for you.
Okay, um, define femininity in a woman. Let's start
Femininity.
there. Yeah.
So, most of us think femininity is, women's rights. And for me, really, it's about a woman accepting all that she is, including all of her emotional roller coasters, including her sensuality, including her physical body. And it's about this, like, so I teach feminine magnetism, right? And it's
Mm.
when a woman fully owns herself and allows herself full expression, it's simply magnetic. It's attractive. People want to be around this kind of woman because it's not like she doesn't judge, she doesn't blame others. There's this aura of I don't want to say it. It's just, I have no other word but magnetic. And I'm sure you kind of understand what I'm saying. If you go to if you see a woman, I always say this kind of example. It's like the woman on the dance floor who simply does not care but enjoys the very moment of being on the dance floor and the smile on her face and her body movements. And you're just looking and you're like, wow.
That is wonderful when you see that.
Exactly.
Yeah, very much so. And yeah, you talk a lot about magnetism and how negative and positive energy between the man and the woman. It's very fascinating. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, it's a masculine feminine polarity dynamics. And yes, even a man has some feminine energy in it. So it's not necessarily according to your biology. However, the way that I teach it, it is for men and for women, and there men have masculine energy and women have feminine energy.
Mm.
And there's just it's like it's like the law of attraction, it's the law of polarity dynamics. And the masculine is a space holder. The masculine is a provider of support. The masculine is there to, be more logical. He's a problem solver. And the feminine is full expression, because the masculine in essence wants to be fully expressed. And so he looks to the feminine and be like, wow, that's amazing. And the feminine is the nurturer. The feminine is the creator of beauty. And so when they both come together, when they're in their fullest expression, it just creates this like, yes, polarity,
Mm.
attraction. And when you understand masculine and feminine polarity dynamics, your relationship becomes easier because you understand your true nature, your true essence.
Sounds wonderful. That sounds absolutely wonderful. Yeah. And what stops women from being the women they want to be?
Oh, lack of confidence, lack of self-worth, being in a society which is more masculine energy driven because it's very much goal setting, right? We got to
Mm.
reach, especially if you're in a jobby job, you've got to reach, the quarter income earnings. You got to, make sure that the deadlines are there. And so that's very much, the goal oriented masculine energy. And even if you are a woman in a very masculine job, there's still feminine energy traits you can cultivate. So, really, I think stress is a really big factor in our lives. And so, for women especially, stress is a very much a desire killer. Okay, also for men, but women are more sensitive to this. And I just did a whole masterclass on the impact of stress in your, sexual life, actually. And so, for a woman to embrace herself, it first and foremost starts with looking at your childhood. And this actually goes for men as well. What you don't realize is the impact of the first 18 months of your childhood has on your self worth, who
Mm.
you think you can be, who you think you can show up as. And we create these internal belief systems, which are like, I'm not lovable because. And there's about 21 physical and emotional needs we have as children. And no one parent or your primary caretaker can give you all of those. And you might have had the most wonderful childhood. I was born in Thailand. I grew up in Nepal.
Mm.
I was a third culture kid. My dad owned a wildlife resort. Like I had a very amazing childhood, but there's still, there's something like, for me, one of my core wounds from my childhood was I felt that I had to prove myself to my dad. And that wasn't the case, but that's what I internalized. And then so growing up until I managed to see this, I was like, okay, in every relationship I had with a man, I had to prove how amazing I was. Because ultimately there was this little seed of like, I'm not worthy of love unless I.
Mm.
And the foundation of all of our existence as humans is we want to be lovable. We want to be loved for who we are, right? Without being blamed to be this way or to have to change, just simply for who we are. That's every single one of us wants that. And we go about life trying to get that love. We don't understand that because we haven't looked at it. We haven't looked at our love wounds from childhood. And so the foundation of what I teach, I'm like, well, tell me what happened in your childhood. What was
Mm.
it like? What was the atmosphere like? What was the relationship dynamics between you and your sisters or brothers? Or, were you bullied at school or your teacher? Or, was your dad emotionally unavailable? Did you have an overly strict mom? And that then forms the foundation of the beliefs on who you are. And that's the number one reason, because you asked about women, that women don't
Yeah.
step fully into who they are. But this goes equally for men.
Yeah, one of your great you have many great quotes that I want to review, but one of them you said your inner child is throwing tantrums in your adult life.
That's exactly, I just explained it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, children throw temper tantrums because, something's not going the way they want. And usually that's like something related to love and attention, right? Attention equals love. As a child, the first 18 months, you need your parents to be there for you. If they're not there for you, you're not going to survive. So
Mm.
our reptilian brain, one of the first parts of our brain that actually, starts to develop, is solely focused on survival. It's constantly scanning your environment. Am I at home? Am I lost? Am I safe? Am I at risk? All of these things. And which is why, as adults, instead of responding, we tend to react, right? Response comes from a little bit more of a place of conscious thought. But a reaction happens immediately, and that's the amygdala in the
Mm.
brain getting activated because it senses a threat to its survival, which means our survival. And the amygdala is a little gland in the brain, and it's immediate. It's like milliseconds. And so, as an adult, if all of a sudden you're reacting, and let's say something happens in your partnership, in your relationship, and all of a sudden you're like, no, you can't do that. You just react. It's like it's really good to just to take a moment and be aware of what feeling is arising. And it might be anger, it might be frustration. And my favorite question to then ask is, what's really underneath this? What's really underneath that? Because that surface level emotion points to something much deeper. And when you ask that question, what's underneath this, to yourself, or if you're in a partnership, you can ask with compassion and ask, well, what's underneath this? What is your need? Because it's a need that's underlying this that's not being met. And it usually stems from one of those emotional or physical needs from childhood. And so the brain got activated, it got triggered, because the brain works on past experience. And that's how we create our reality, based on what we've experienced in the past.
Hmm.
So therefore, anything that's a similar situation to something that happened in the past, your brain's already going to be on high alert, because it's like, oh, this happened in the past and I wasn't safe. And so now it's going to go ding, 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 alarm bells. You might not be safe anymore. Come on, let's react, right? So that's where it's like fight, flight, or freeze, right? And so take that moment. Take that moment to breathe and be like, what's really underneath it? What's the need? And this is what I teach in conscious communication to couples. It's like, you don't have to react, but if you take that moment to pause and really ask yourself, what is it that I'm really needing in this moment? Is it to be listened to properly and heard? Is it like to be understood in what's going on? Is it, do I need a cuddle? What is it really? And that's how you can create a relationship where you never have to fight, where there's no bickering, because you understand what's arising on the inside of you, which is coming from that inner child, right? It's coming from that childhood experience you've had. And then you can share, what do you really need? Mm.
Well put. And you talk about being a better listener, where you know, you we all come from assumptions, and sometimes we don't listen. We're just based on those assumptions, and you should be from a clean slate. You talk about you should have eye contact, acknowledge, and thank you. I don't want to take your words, but I really enjoyed that process that you taught.
Yeah, you have to understand that it's a phenomenon called, we are already always listening. Okay, so it's a filter. We are listening with filters on, particularly in relationships. If you've been in a longer term relationship, you already think that you know your partner, which is number
Mm.
one, the biggest mistake already. Because if you think you already know your partner, there's no space for something new to arise.
Hmm.
And what makes a relationship flourish and expand is actually curiosity. And a lot of couples I work with are like, well, we don't have a great sex life anymore. And we've kind of turned from partners into roommates, especially
Mm.
during the lockdown period, right? Because we're always together, and we only talk about, to do things like the kids, or, work related things, but there's no relational, intimate conversation. It's very surface level. And so what happens is then we start to listen already. So if I say Britney Spears, you're bringing all the information that you know about Britney Spears, and anything that I say next about Britney Spears, you're already listening from your filters of Britney Spears.
Hmm.
And so to get over the filter of already, oh, I know this person already, you have to go back to the place of curiosity. Do I really know this person? What's really going on for them right now? And that's where asking the right questions and deeper questions comes in. And it starts from curiosity. What's going on for me right now? What's the impact of their sharing on me right now? What does this bring up for me? And then, asking them, are you available for me to share?
That would be wonderful. And yeah, what can men do to better help women with with their femininity and with their with these blockers that they have? You also talk about bad thoughts, how you say clap and wipe and remove those and
Mm,
fill with gratitude right away. And
yeah.
can you expand on that as well?
Yeah, okay. So first of all, what can men do? So the any of
Mm,
the men listening here, you have to understand that the feminine is wild in her expression. And the worst thing that you can say to a woman is calm down.
mm,
Because women want to be understood. They want to be understood. And men want to be appreciated. That's kind of one of the foundational of the masculine feminine polarity dynamics. Women want to be understood. And so can you create a safe space, a safe container where your woman feels safe to share whatever is going on for her, and you're not going to be judging her, you're not going to be kind of like interrupting her, you're not going to be telling her that she's wrong. So men want to problem solve, they want to fix. That's your
mm,
natural tendency, which
mm,
is great. But when a woman is coming to you, she simply wants to be heard. So you can say, I'm listening, I'm here for you, do you need to talk? And then simply listen and repeat back what she has said to you. This is one of the foundational tools of conscious communication. It's called active listening, because you need to be in your whole body to listen to what she's saying, so that when she's finished saying it, you're able to mirror back what she said. And this creates a nervous system response of relief and relaxation. And it seems really awkward if you're just listening to me telling this practice, but I want you to go and try it out.
mm.
I'm here for you. This is safe. I want to listen to you. And then she shares to you, and just look at her in the eyes as she's sharing. And when she's finished sharing, be a mirror. Repeat back almost her exact words. It's not about your opinions, it's not about your sharing, it's repeating back what you've just heard. And then you can ask her, is there more?
Mm.
And maybe she's like, no, she feels complete, there's nothing more. Maybe there is more. And then simply repeat back again. And that is how to make a woman feel understood. But it's not only a woman. A woman can do this to a man. As a boss, you can do it to your employers. We all want to be heard. This comes back to our foundational longing. We want to be seen, we want to be heard, we want to be appreciated. We all want to be validated for who we are,
Hmm.
because we all want to be loved.
Fundamentally, we all want to be loved.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, men and women aren't that different because fundamentally we all want to be loved. And
Exactly.
yeah, it seems so simple, Nora, but it's but it's true. Yeah, and your bad thought,
Yeah,
your mind gets filled with bad thoughts. You say
yeah,
to clap it and wipe it
yeah.
away. I thought that was a really good, and then fill it with gratitude immediately.
Yeah.
It's an excellent
So
exercise.
yeah, so let me talk a little bit about this. So our we have the external world, okay? And to a large degree, we can't change it. It's out of our control. We can change our immediate environment, okay? But the external world out at large, it's out of our control. We
Mm,
can change our home environment. We can maybe change who we want to relate to, who's our friends, what job we have. That we can control. So our senses are the filter through which we interpret what's going on around us. Without our senses, how would we interpret it? How would we kind of know what's going on? And through our senses, we then form thought. Oh, look, there's light coming in. That's a thought in essence, right? And a thought that we think multiple times creates a belief. A belief forms our belief system. So we have multiple beliefs. So just think about your beliefs, whether it's your, beliefs around, who you want to marry, or if you want to marry someone who's Jewish or Christian, that's a belief right there. Religious beliefs, our beliefs are everything. I can't wear a dress as a woman because I don't look good. That's a belief.
mm,
So we have a belief system, and our belief system informs the actions we take. I don't look good in a dress, therefore I'm not going to wear a dress. And the actions we take create our reality, what we see around us. And so you're like, okay, well, I'm not happy. I hate my job, don't like my relationship, don't like who I am. What can you change? You have to go back to the only thing that you can change, and that's your thought. And so the first step, if you want to change who you are or change the reality you see around you, is you got to change, you got to be aware of the thoughts you are thinking because they form your belief system, which then informs your actions, which then creates your reality.
Hmm.
And so a lot of the women that I work with have negative self-thoughts and really lacking self-confidence, really not feeling being able to express who they are. And so we go back first to their childhood and see what's really going on here. What belief systems have you internalized? And what are the thoughts you keep thinking on the daily basis that then forms the belief system that you have? And once you become aware of how you think, you can then decide to do a pattern interrupt of your thought process. And that's where I then teach that, flat. And sometimes I say swipe, but generally I say flush also.
Hmm.
Flush it down the toilet drain and then replace that thought. So I always ask whoever I work with, how badly do you want what you want? Because if you want it badly enough, you're going to do the work needed to get what you want. And being aware of how you think is work in the essence of you have to be aware and conscious and like be ready to stop that thought.
Hmm.
And a great tool then, because it's an embodied tool, so it has more impact when we embody it, is just to clap and say, I'm not willing to think that thought anymore. Let me replace that thought. So let's delete it. Then I like to flush it down the toilet or swipe it away, press delete, whatever you want to do. And what do I want to think instead? And so replace that thought. And we have millions of thoughts a day. And this is why it takes work. We have so
Hmm.
many thoughts a day. So you need to then be like, nope, and constantly catch yourself, not willing to think that this is what I want to think instead, because I know my thoughts form my beliefs, which forms my actions, which forms my reality. Hmm.
Yes, have to take that in, take a deep breath. Yes, absolutely. And another great thing that you teach is what I want, what we want, and then how will I feel when I have it?
Mm. So this is what I call the manifestation hack because first of all, just realize you just want to be loved. Okay. Once you realize that, then you can start looking at how you show up and the actions and the behaviors you have in life. Because underneath it all, you want to be loved. So whether it's the, status, thinking I'm gonna have status and then I'm gonna be loved, whether that's like, oh, nobody's following me on Instagram. That's a need to be loved, right? Need to be validated. The car that you buy, the neighborhood that you want your, house in, all of that leads down to I want to be loved. And I, a lot of women come to me saying, "Oh, I desire this and I don't know how to get it." And so then how I teach is you have to understand that we orient our lives according to how we feel. So instead of just being human beings, we're actually human feelings.
Hmm.
Something doesn't feel good, so then we're like, we try and do something else. But when you can actually tune into your desires based on feelings, so let's say I want to have a six-figure job. You're like, okay, well, why is it that you want the six-figure job? Or why is it that you want to have the most beautiful, healthy, conscious relationship? There's feelings underneath that core desire. So if you can list out the feelings of why you want, the six-figure job. Oh, I'm going to be making so much money. I won't be in debt anymore. Okay, so you won't be in debt anymore, but what's the feeling? The feeling's relief,
Hmm.
right? I'll feel relief. I'm gonna have so much money. I can buy whatever I want. Oh, you know what? There's joy in buying whatever I want. So it's not actually just the six-figure job you want. What you're trying to search for is the feeling of relief and joy.
Hmm.
And so you can make a list of all the feelings under the core desire that you have. And then you can ask yourself, okay, well, I don't actually need the job to feel all of these feelings. There's 100 million different ways that I can feel relief, so make a list of all the ways that you can feel relief and joy, and then
Hmm.
go and do those things. Because it's not actually the core desire you want, it's the feelings that you're searching for. And so, why deny yourself the feelings by only having it with the job when you can do 100 other things to have those same feelings? And that's what manifestation is, it's tuning into the feelings of what you want and then allowing yourself to do the actions to create those feelings for you right now. And when you break it down like that, it's super simple. And you're like, wow, I never thought of it like that. And you just have to understand that we're human feelings. We navigate our life according to feelings.
Very interesting. Do not chase the butterfly, Build your garden and they will come.
Exactly. And also realize why you want the butterfly. What's the feeling you're seeking? And
Hmm.
then create that for yourself. Create your own internal garden.
You stress the importance of journaling,
Mm, I do.
and you have lots of exercises of what you want women to do. Make a column for this, and
Yeah,
column for that. And um, do you practice journaling every day? Do you recommend it?
I recommend it. It's not, I don't recommend anything where you feel totally forced to do it. Because then I
Mm,
ask you to be like, okay, well, what's the resistance, right? What's the resistance? What's the belief you have that's creating the resistance? And the only reason that I'm such a cheerleader for journaling is because we have those millions of thoughts running through our mind at any one time throughout the day. And what happens is when you allow yourself either to talk about it with someone who can hold the correct space for you so you don't feel belittled, that you don't feel, judged or any of that, or when you manage to write it down for yourself, aka journaling, okay?
mm,
It empties out some of the energy of your thoughts swirling around in your mind, and it creates spaciousness and clarity towards who you want to be, or what you desire, or how you want to feel. And this is why I really enjoy, prescribing, if you want to say like that, journaling as a task force. But there's different types of journaling, because you can just journal and you can just say, this happened to me today, I feel like this informative journaling. But the journaling that I'm a big fan of, and all the journaling questions I kind of ask, they're asking the right questions to yourself so that your subconscious mind can be working even when you're not journaling on answering those questions, because your subconscious mind is an answer seeking mind. You can
mm.
ask it, a little hack that I also teach is like, ask yourself one question before bed, before you fall asleep every night, and the same question until you get that answer. And you know what? It might not come immediately, but that's okay. And your subconscious mind will process that question as you're sleeping and try and give you an answer.
Hmm.
It's fascinating. And there's no difference between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, in terms of the subconscious mind, you know, thinks it's real, thinks it's reality what it's thinking, which is why, we go back to that inner child. You throw emotional temper tantrums because your subconscious mind, which is in the reptilian brain, is just like, no, this is reality. And your conscious self is like, why am I reacting like this? It's
Hmm.
like I'm 2 years old again. So journaling is a practice where you can empty the energetic space of your mind, so it creates spaciousness to allow new thoughts and new formulations to come in. And it's asking yourself better questions so you get better answers. And that's what personal development is. It's asking yourself the questions.
It really is. And I enjoyed your one video on self love, where you kind of gave 4 steps. And the first one was journaling. I don't want to. You'll do a much better job of discussing it than I can reiterate. But I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed self love. Please elaborate.
So self-love is a huge term that's kind of come online in the last, I would say, like 5 years. You see it everywhere, and like, you need self-love before you can do anything else. And for me, it was triggering, and so I had to look at why
Hmm.
was I getting like a little bit like, oh, why are they using self-love again? Because I didn't resonate with it. I'm like, I don't understand it. I don't understand what it means. Okay, love myself. And then the big question was, but how? I
Hmm.
get it, love myself, but I don't love myself. And so there was this embodied gap between, I knew that's what I should be doing, and everyone told me I should be doing that, but I didn't feel it. So how did I bridge the gap? And embodiment is very much what I share and what I teach, especially with women. And for me, self love, I kind of broke it down when I journaled about it and I thought about it. It's actually, I like to use the term self appreciation. It's
Hmm.
having kindness and compassion with yourself, no matter what's going on for you. Now, I had a history of anxiety for over 10 years. I had a panic attack at 24 years old in the London Underground, which then formulated a belief system that I had to be in fear, that I had to be on high alert, that I was not safe being me or being alone, which caused me to then go into codependent relationship after relationship because I didn't want to be alone. I mean, I can talk about anxiety and fear. That's a whole separate topic right there. But
Yes.
my anxiety journey for 10 years, having chronic anxiety, really led me to understand it's about self-compassion. It's about being okay with who you are in this moment, because being hard on yourself is not going to get you anywhere.
Hmm.
It's really not going to get you anywhere. So for me, self-love is about I'm okay with who I am today. I understand my need and longing to be loved. I am willing to look at how I'm feeling in this moment and where those feelings are arising from, because feelings arise from experiences. And I'm still okay with feeling it right now, but I'm not creating a drama or a story about it. And I'm just going to appreciate who I am right now. I'm going to allow myself the spaciousness to change how I'm feeling around myself or around the situation or any experience to then see how I feel then. But honestly, self-appreciation. So one of the things I really talk about when I talk about self-love is when you go to bed at night, make a list of things that you appreciate about yourself. So gratitude is external. Gratitude is usually, oh, I'm really grateful that the sun is shining. I'm really grateful that I can live in Bali. I'm really grateful that I've got money in my bank. It's really external. Whereas self-appreciation is, I'm grateful that I got out of bed today. I'm grateful that I went to my job and I did, an amazing report. It's internal. And so you kind of build, you kind of stack the self-love like that. Is there anything else I want to say about that? I don't think so. I think that's the main. I don't even, actually, in honesty, I don't even remember what I said in that video. It was a while ago. I recorded it. But what I just shared is the basis of how I look at self-love now. Being okay with being yourself because you understand your needs and you just understand that you are trying the best you are in this moment. And there's always room for growth. There's always room for more learning. But you don't want to be stuck in the victim mode. And the victim mode is you believing that you're not worthy, that
Mhm.
everything's out to get you, that no one loves you, right? You create these stories, these elaborate stories, which just feed, it feeds your subconscious mind and in the negative feedback loop of like, I'm not worthy. Look, all these people, I got denied from this, that happened. Oh, I got rejected from this man, right? It feeds into this I'm not worthy loop. And so you can break that loop by journaling, looking at what's coming up in your thoughts, realizing you just want to be loved, realizing you navigate life with your feelings. What are your desires? How do they feel? Okay, what can you do to feel that way now?
Very interesting. Yeah, the video you said to journal for 10 minutes on what you hate about yourself, and then to
Yes.
circle the top 3, and then turn small things that you love about you, and then expand and repeat. So I thought it was a very worthwhile exercise.
Yeah. Because the thing is, the majority of us don't realize the kind of thoughts we have,
Mm,
right? We don't look at it. We don't do self examination. We don't assess what's really going on in our minds. We just do life. And personal development is awareness. You cannot transform who you are without being aware of who you are. And who we are our thoughts. And that's
very
why I
interesting.
love journaling. And so you get clear on the thoughts you have. And journaling is such a great tool for that because it's written and you can see it. And
Mm,
then you can circle and you can make notes. And then you can expand. But all of that in our mind, right, it's too much is to handle if it's just all going in our mind. And that's why I love journaling it. You get to see it. You'd be like, okay, big, huge paper. So I've got like a huge, I got huge pieces of paper where I journal, right? A3
ah,
size. Do mind maps,
yeah, the mind map I saw, yeah.
right? Do mind
Yeah.
maps and things like this. And they're like, okay, what do I want? How do I want to feel? I'm just connecting the dots.
Yeah, very interesting. We talk a lot about discipline on, I talk to people. I lost a lot of weight, and, my daughter was born. My doctor said, I'm not going to be around. You better change what
Hmm.
you're doing. And so, people ask me, how did I lose all the weight? And I said, just discipline. It's really what it comes down to.
Mm.
And they want some secret answer, like, I don't know, I climbed a tree and I lost weight. It's not, it's just discipline. But what you're talking about and discussing takes a lot of discipline, because you've got to ask yourself the real questions and you've got to answer them real. You've got to be true with yourself and be self-disciplined in order to move on and to free yourself from a lot of these negative thoughts and negative things that happen in bad relationships, like you said.
Mm. I think discipline's an interesting word. And, as a listener, as you're listening to this, just think, as you hear the word discipline, what arises for you?
Mm,
Because you're already always listening and you've got filters on the word discipline. If
mm.
you had really strict parents, discipline might bring up like the rebellious side of you and be like, hell no, I'm not going to do that. Or maybe you were a really like good person in school, and I was about to say good girl, but there might be men listening to this, right? And a good child, and you thrived on discipline because at school, because your home life was so chaotic. And so the word discipline itself has a filter on it for you. So just, go ahead and journal on what discipline means for you and
Mm.
see what's arising, because a lot of people don't like discipline because it leads to authority and people don't like to be, told what to do. And I would like to think of discipline as consistency.
Hmm.
And consistency is maybe a softer word. And consistency simply means no matter what, you keep moving forward, you keep showing up, you just keep going. And the same question, how badly do you want what you want? If you want it badly enough, you'll do what you need to do. You'll take the inspired action. And there'll
Mm.
be up days where you're like, yeah, there'll be down days where you're like, hell no.
Mm.
But you journal, you look at your thoughts, what's around this, what's causing this, how badly do I actually want my goal, my desire? How can I show up in whatever small way? How can I show up to take inspired action every single day towards what I desire and my goal? So whether that is weight loss, right? And getting a support system is super important in your goal, no matter if it's a weight loss goal, stop smoking goal, attracting the man or the woman that you want in the relationship. Get a support system in. Get somebody who's done it before you. That's why mentoring and coaching is so great, because it holds you accountable. It holds you accountable towards your goal, and it can inspire you to be like, yes, it's possible. Yes, I can do it too. Because we create this distance. I can't do it. That's not for me.
Mm.
I can't achieve that. Right? So that's a belief system right there. Found your belief system, found your thought. I can't do that. Why not? Write it down. Write down why you think you can't. And then have a look at those thoughts. Where did they come from? Who told you that?
Hmm.
Did your school teacher tell you that? Did some work colleague tell you that? Did someone make a snide comment once in the underground or the New York City subway saying, who are you? And then you internalized, who am I to achieve my goal?
Hmm.
That's not true. That's not your thought.
Very interesting.
Consistency.
Yeah, consistency. I think about the one exercise that we already discussed where, you ask your partner, their thoughts, and you listen and you repeat and you ask if there's more and you look them in the eye. It takes discipline to do that, and it takes compassion as well.
Mm,
But you've got to remind yourself you have to do that on a consistent basis. You
mm,
have to do that. And it's fascinating when I talk to people about discipline. It seems to me a spectrum, because there's so many, like you said, if you have strict parents, maybe it's that, or if it's just pure self-discipline. When I wanted to lose weight, I didn't think it was very militant. I just, hey, this is what I need to do, and I'm going to do it, because if I don't, I'm not going to see my daughter around, so kind of come to Jesus moment made that happen. You also a counselor for couples, excuse me. And what's the number one thing that's a relationship killer with couples?
Assumptions. Lack
Mm,
of communication, because you just assume. Assumptions are a relationship killer. It also, everyone's like, oh, the spark's dying. We don't relate to each other in the same passionate, romantic way. I don't feel desired. Our sex life has gone to pieces. Mismatched sex drive, and it's because of assumptions. You don't allow yourself to be curious about your partner, because if you think about it, when you first come together in a relationship or you're dating, there's so much curiosity to get to know the other person,
Mm.
and it's all exciting and it's all new. And then once you think that you know them, right, that dies. And so, can you bring back the spark in a relationship? Can you fan the flames of desire again? Yes, you can. Desire is a cultivated practice. We make the mistake of thinking it's going to be spontaneous and expect it to be there. No, you create the mood and the environment and the safety and the trust in your relationship. Knowing masculine and feminine polarity dynamics as well really helps in attraction. And then you can cultivate desire long term. You don't have to become roommates. So assumptions is the number one relationship killer. And the result of that is couples lack the skills for better communication.
Hmm.
And so foundationally, I teach couples conscious communication. And communication in itself is just the act of, getting information across. That's what communication is. Whereas conscious communication is being vulnerable enough to share your deeper feelings. And in order to be able to share that, you need to feel safe to share that. And at the same time, it's being able to be a compassionate listener, to be able to hear the other person and what they're saying. So there's that big difference. It's not just informational, it's about tapping into what's really going on inside of you, but holding the space, which is a non-judgmental space, for the other person to be heard as well. Because we all want that. We all want that. And I want you to notice when you have conversations, are you listening just so you're able to respond to what's going on, to have your opinion heard? Because that's what we want. We want to be heard. And you can change someone's life by simply listening to them. And that's what the active listening exercise I talked about a little while ago in the beginning of this podcast. Listen to somebody and simply repeat back their words. It's so simple, and yet we do not do it. The conversation, it's always a ping pong table, the conversation, right? Yeah, but, and this, and did you know this, and I did this, and yeah. That's kind of like the way we do conversation. So it's strategic. We're always thinking generally in normal conversation and communication where we think, what's in this for me? That's in the background, right? That little thought's in the background in our subconscious mind. What's in this for me? And so we respond from that. So instead, conscious communication is like, I am here to witness and listen and validate the experience of the person that's in front of me. And at the same time, I desire to have the same done to me.
There's a very big difference between listening and waiting to talk.
Yes. Yes.
My girlfriend has a lot of friends, women friends that are divorced and they're single now, and they're always asking me the male perspective, and and I ask, what do you want, from a man? And
Mm.
I get things, ambiguous things like, I want him to treat me like a woman.
Mm.
And I said, I know you do, but you're just going to have to be a little more specific.
Yeah, I totally get that. It's really funny because you have to, like, men, like women in general are a mystery to men. Where you're thinking like, my God, she's like emotional roller coaster. She's all over the place. She says something and I don't really understand what she's saying. And so for women who are listening to this, be super clear. When you ask for something, be super clear in what you're asking for. I want a man to treat me like a woman. Well, what does that actually mean?
Right.
Because what it might mean for you as a woman might be different for the woman who's next to you.
Or the man.
Or the man. Right? So be clear, because when there's clarity, when you can speak with clarity to a man, they're like, because men are kind of always on the edge. Did I do something wrong? Right?
Right.
Is this what she really wants? So make it easy for the man and be like, I want you to treat me like a woman. And it looks like, taking me out for dinner once a week, to buy me flowers. It looks like, sharing appreciation that you enjoy the effort I put into, dressing up nicely because I like to feel beautiful, telling me that I'm beautiful. That's what treating me like a woman is like for me.
Yeah, to be very specific. And I ask them to elaborate, and they say things like that. Hold the door open for me,
Yeah,
you know, and buy flowers. So I would say, okay, you need to tell them I want flowers twice a month.
yeah.
They'll do it. They just
Exactly.
they'll do it. They will do it. They will follow instructions. But when you're ambiguous, they'll make up their own mind on what that means. I want to
Yeah,
be treated nice. I hear this.
yeah, yeah.
I want to be treated nice. I know you do. But again, there's all the give me, just break it down for me. Oh, they should know. They should know how to treat a woman. I think, there's a lot of this. And
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
ladies.
Well, that's also cultural conditioning, right? Women, a man should be gentlemanly, right? So it's like,
Mm,
okay, that's cultural conditioning, and at the same time, it's totally okay to desire that. Your desires are not right, and your desires are not wrong. But then that you see, oh, they should know. That's an expectation already, and
mm,
expectation only leads to disappointment.
it does.
That's very much the same with your needs, right? Your emotional, physical needs. In a partnership, you expect that your partner will know because you've made the assumption that, you've been together for X number of years, so they should know. And then that doesn't happen. And then you're disappointed and it leads to an argument. Why didn't you do that? You're like, oh, I didn't realize how important it was to you. Oh, I didn't know. Right. And you're like,
Mm,
you should have known. And so the clearer you can get on your expectation, which actually leads to needs, right? Expectations have underlying needs, the more effortless your relationship's going to be because you use conscious communication to share it with your partner. And if you're in a committed relationship, you want to be there for each other. That's what you want in your committed relationship. But you don't understand how you can do that. So just be super clear on it. Lay it out. Clarity is king. Clarity leads to, getting what you want in life.
it's so simple. Yeah, I hear this a lot. I want a masculine man. And then they all
Mm.
high five each other. Yeah, we want. I said, well, ladies, I'm going to ask you to just be a little more specific. And it's just interesting because if I were to talk to men, and they probably say similar things. I want a womanly woman. I want a, So it's just you're right. Just that fundamental non-assumption communication is really the foundation. It would seem.
100%. Notice how you're communicating. Just simply again, transformation starts with awareness. So have awareness around how you communicate. Are you communicating out of a needy place? Are you communicating out of judgment already, being opinionated? Are you communicating because you strategically want something from the other person? Just start there, noticing what's coming out of your mouth.
Absolutely. Oh, that's right. That feels great. Breathe all the way through the nose. Nora Wendel, what an absolute pleasure. You gave me so much information. I hope the listeners benefit from this. You wrote a great book. You wrote it in 5 days. You want to talk about that for a moment?
Great, of course. I wrote a book. It launched last month, and actually 2 months ago now, in the beginning of August. And it's called Confident, Sexy, and Wildly Free: How to Own Your Worth, Ditch the Self Doubt, and Not Give a Fuck What Other People Think of You. And it's a
Mm,
personal development book, which is outlining my journey with anxiety and how I used all these tools in order to be this confident, sexy, and wildly free woman. It
mm.
comes with a whole media library of meditations and videos and more questions, PDF questions on my website. It's available on Amazon. I hit Amazon bestseller in 24 hours in 5 countries: USA,
Wow.
UK, Canada, Germany, and Australia. Go purchase a copy and then send me a DM on Instagram. I'm really active on Instagram. At Nora Wendel is my username. And just slide into my DMs and be like, hey, heard you on the podcast with Joe. Excuse me. Or just say, hey, read your book. And I'm like, I send voice messages. I send video replies because I'm like, hey, I'm all about communication. I'm all about connection. So, let's connect.
You had a great Instagram site too. I really enjoyed that page. Nora, thank you so much for your time. An absolute delight. A lot of information, and keep doing what you're doing and helping people.
Yes. Thank
A
you.
lot of people, like yourself, been through some trauma. You turned it around, and not only are you healing yourself, but you're healing others. I
Yes.
applaud you for that.
Yes, thank you so much. And if you want to reach out to me, if you're listening to this and want to dive a little bit more into your personal development, if you're a woman, then reach out. This is the core of what I do: is one-to-one coaching with women to really look at why you don't feel free to be yourself. Because ultimately, we just want to be the freedom in our self-expression. So I look at that, and I also do couples coaching. I have some group programs which are launching. One is Deeper in Love, which is a relationship couples coaching program where the core focus is conscious communication and sexual expansion. So how do you keep the flame alive for years to come? And then my course is it's a live group coaching program for single women. It's called the School of Feminine Magnetism. That's a 12-week course that looks at the foundation of why you're still single and what your beliefs are, and how can you become this magnetic woman who attracts the exact dream man. And so we do manifestation, we look at childhood wounds, we look at your sexuality and your pleasure and all of that. So those are the two main programs that I run.
Fantastic. Nora Wendel, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you. And I hope one day, if I get to Bali, we get to have a cup of coffee together. That
Oh,
would be wonderful.
please come and join. I'd be delighted. I'm sure we'd have many more things to talk about. We could do a podcast recording at the coffee shop live from Bali.
Wonderful. Oh my goodness. I'm writing it down now. Thank you so much. You be well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye
Bye.
now. Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypins.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Would you like to financially support the podcast? You can go to our Patreon site. Consider $5, $10, or $20 a month. There's all kind of plans that we have there. There's like a one-time payment. What is this podcast episode worth to you? $25, $50, $100, $500, $1,000, $5,000. You be the judge. You can go to our PayPal account to do that as well. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.